Right, and you take away things like extra credit or participation points or, you know, a point for bringing in a box of Kleenex or what have you, right? That those points, you know, the participation points, things like that are taken and demonstrated. We want parents to know that children are being good collaborative learners, but that's separate from what is your child really able to do. We no longer want that B- to hide any deficits in learning. So
it really makes the focus more on the learning instead of on all that other stuff that goes around it.
So the question I have is, how do you, so in the early years, it just seems like a very soft way of approaching quantifying how they're learning. So I can see that being a question from like a bunch of the parents. Well, how is it going to be like we did it before? And in the earlier grades, it makes a lot of sense. Like some students maybe in kindergarten just need more help, need more of a play-based or softer approach. But how does it prepare them when they go to high school? Because responsibility and turning things in on time, and I mean we all have these problems, but in the real world that's an issue. So how does this softer approach prepare them to go into high school? Because I'm assuming this is all the grades, right?
It's not just already doing it. It's not. I know, but it's just that the high. This is why we're doing it for the high school.
No, I mean, that's okay. That's okay, but I mean, that's not responsibility,
well,
right?
and you say it's a softer approach, and I would caution you that perhaps you're feeling that right now because there's not that hitting them over the head for taking points off for late work, or there's not a grade. I don't find this to be softer. I find this to be very much more specific.
Yeah. And
you can't hide your lack of knowledge and skill of a particular learning goal anymore. So in some ways, it's tougher because you're really targeting those skills. I could go on all year without knowing how to use a semicolon. Let's just throw that example in, right? Mm-hmm. I could get an A- in English language arts without ever knowing how to do a semicolon, anything about a semicolon. It hides it. But if that's one of the standards is punctuation for my 8th graders, you can't run, you can't hide anymore. And that to me is more rigorous than just saying, well, you've got an A- because you're a nice kid, you brought in your Kleenex, you had extra credit, you wrote a nice essay.
Sure, I understand that. I mean,
so I would like it to be an opportunity for all of us to really target learning and raise expectations in a more specific way. You're right, it might feel...
Use an example because it's interesting. So are you saying that there are ways to get around, that currently there are ways to get around proving what you actually know by doing other things?
Well, when you average grades, that's correct.
And you're averaging together homework. But let's say homework the student works very hard on, comes, has a lot of outreach and has ways to come to school with that 100% every time, but still struggles on that test. It is possible that student would be getting a higher grade than shows what their learning really is.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. That happens a lot. It seems very dynamic. Like there could be problems here and problems there. And the overall goal is what? And to change.
Yeah. To maximize students' learning.
To master that topic. It's like fractions. In math, in algebra, you have there's a lot of things you need to learn in algebra 1 in 8th grade. And if one of them is, fractions, then you need to learn fractions. There is no, you do know it, it's you know it or you don't know it. And so now that teacher could go back in and during lines then do the reinforcement. That's where they can come back to the parents saying, hey, you know what, he knows how to do equations, but he can't figure out fractions. That's what they need to work on. And until they master that, because fractions is very important in algebra. And so just like a timetable, if they're in 2nd grade, they're learning the timetable, and the only way to learn them is to memorize it, right? And so that's where that, you know it or you don't know it. And so this way, it puts that pressure on the student to master it. Like, oh, I just know it half the time. You know, like with my daughter, I would mess with her. I'd say, I'm going to wake you up at 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to ask you what is 7 times 6. And so guess what? You know, she had that fear. Not that we woke her up, but you know, during dinner or whatever it is, I'll yell out, you know, 8 times 7. And, you know, and that's the way. That's the way you learn it. You know it or you don't. And this gives you the opportunity to point out what the student knows and what they need help with to make them successful. In high school, you know, already in high school, they don't count, you know, there's a lot of stuff that they don't do the way that the elementary school do. They're already doing this standards-based grading. You know, we started this, we were talking about this 2-3 years ago. It's great. You know, this is something that it's mastering a topic. It's like with writing, you know, by the time you're done with 8th grade, you want them to write an essay or a story. You want them to look at the text. You want them to show 3 or 4 different proofs of that text. You want them to have a beginning. You want them to have a summary. You want them to have a conclusion. And so if a student can do that in 6th grade, then you can start getting them to write bigger papers and so forth. And that's where that excel will happen with this type of program or this type of teaching model or grading model.
So it's focusing on what, ensuring that they really understand and learn the material, not masking it by other
Exactly.
So now another question is, how do you deal with because you said you separate out what they're actually learning and whether we're advancing your education, and then how do you separate out the discipline piece? So the student never turns things in on time, but they have to learn all the skills. So how are you addressing those other skills or soft skills that are required for the development of the student as a whole?
The report card now includes, it kind of is funny because it's like going back to the early 1900s. My grandfather, his high school report card included comportment and character grades. And that's exactly where we're going back to. Everything comes around. That he, you know, actually was a very naughty boy in high school, but that's okay. That will be reported separately. And also, we can hold students accountable in other ways: lunch detentions, after school time, before school, Saturday, even in third trimester next year. We have Saturday detention because we want the students, we value homework as practice. We want homework to be meaningful. We want it to be something that we truly believe will impact their learning and individualized enough so that the students feel that it's valuable and that we aren't just putting grades in for task completion. We want to really just report how well the students are doing. So we assign the homework, they do the homework, and we hold them accountable for doing the homework. Instead of threatening their grade, we threaten the report of their comportment and their character, but we also have ways to take away their freedom and take away their free time.
Yeah, I just think it's a skill. We're going to schools now. I mean, you're learning the material, but like in college, when you go to college, well, I went to college to study computer science, but you learn so much more in college than just computer science technique.
We agree.
I mean, it's interesting that we're separating it to get more information to be able to work on the language skills. But that may be another subject. How to deal
No,
with
you're right.
real life.
In fact, Stephanie often says, what is your phrase you always say? I teach kids how to read, write, and get along.
Oh yeah, we teach
That
reading,
whole
writing,
thing
and
alone,
friendship,
that
child.
whole thing is
Yeah,
under, and that's part
all
of
the
it.
time. Yeah.
Knowing deadlines, turning things in on time.
And I like the explanation about the 20 years ago or 1920s.
Oh my gosh.
I like it because I mean this is part of the community's communication. I mean the communication piece is important when you're making such a big change for the community. People don't understand this. Just like I was, that sounds so kind of soft. And I understood what's happening,
Right.
but I don't understand it in that way. I
That
think
B-
it's
could be a really good kid who turns in all his homework and just did not so great on tests. And that B- could be the kid who's a real jerk who never turns in his homework and just does really well on tests. I no longer want those same letter grades to go out and be the same to the world. I want more information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question as well. So with what you're explaining, taking away the grade aspect, but breaking it up into more parts. As a parent, my question is, if this system is going to provide more information and break it down, what steps are in place with this to increase the communication with the parents so they're not just sitting waiting on a Saturday detention for that kid? What steps are in place for the teachers themselves, not waiting for that quarter report card to review this or the communications back and forth until there is a so-called disciplinary action or something to that effect?
There's a parent portal aspect to our Mastery Connect system. So when your child has a quiz, the quiz will no longer be reported as 10-point quiz. It will be 5 points on this learning target and 5 points on that learning target. You'll be able to go in and see how the child is doing on that learning target on all the assessments that have been given so far. And you'll see how, ooh, Jimmy, you can't identify theme. We really need to, email your teacher and find out how we can improve that. And you partner with those teachers in improving individual skills.
On the same side, and the teachers have the ability too to reach out to the parents.
Right.
And
Right,
say,
and that's
"Is
where
this
I was
what
going.
happened?
We're
Yeah.
struggling with theme.
Can you help us with
There's
this?"
going to be another assessment coming up. Here's an opportunity for relearning, reteaching, and then there'll be another assessment.
Right, that's more where I was looking,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
as we, as we've seen it appears that there's less and less involvement and waiting on report cards and stuff like that. That's what I was wondering where the teacher communication is to try to push that now that it's not just going to be pass A, B, C, D, where that's set up, or is the system set up to require the teachers to be in a higher communication if somebody is lacking in that or not turning in work? I guess that's where I'm.
Well, the system has the ability to push out emails to parents whenever you post something. So it can have that ability to say, hey, push out, we posted the math test. It's a little different than Power School was able to do that under Mastery Connect. That's something that we're going to have to find a balance. Because to me, we're very polarized. We have parents that will contact you the moment you post something. Like you post it and then you get an email saying, hey, why did Susie do this? And then the parents that are like, what is Power School? We never went on that. We don't really have a lot of them out. We don't.
And
One or the other for at least.
And this is very new for us, this Mastery Connect, so I don't know all of the ins and outs, and we're going to training in August. But many systems have an opportunity for parents to set alerts,
Yes.
so that you get text messages, update,
Email,
grade
phone
was
calls.
posted, in Mastery Connect, and
But it does have a lot more ability to push things out.
Yeah.
Push information out to parents.
to
which
parents,
is
the
nice.
teachers can.
Yeah.
So, I'd just like to remind the board is one of the things that, we ask this administration to do is to raise the rigor of the students and getting them better prepared for high school and aligning them to be prepared for high school with Ridgeway. And this is one of the examples what this team has done. This has been going on for 2 to 3 years, looking at it, testing it, looking at it, and now we're finally going to implement it out there. So this is what the board wanted, to raise the rigor, and I just want to commend the administration team for taking one of our goals and bringing it to fruition and staying within our budgetary constraints at the same time. Great, thank you. We'll move on to Dr. Raleigh.
Just 2 things. We are coming up on the registration process, and with the registration process comes residency. And so the board is aware we are going to take the same approach when it comes to the rigor of our residency checks. We are going to work with our specialists to not only assure that the people that are registering have the appropriate paperwork, but in the event that a family or a student or a parent is flagged, we will follow up with the same process that we've done in the past. And so as a reminder, 3 years ago, we started with a process where there were many people that were accessing the school. In fact, there was about 70 people that were accessing our school that should not have been. We basically decreased that to 30. And this last year, we were about down to 10. And then I want to say at the end of the year, there were 5 that were questionable. I'm anticipating with our rigorous process that it will be far better in terms of people coming with the appropriate paperwork, and more importantly, the individuals that are registering are residents of the community.